Alright, YouTube, this is not really an update, it's a random video, because I've seen, I would say a handful in the last, month, of videos of guys that are having issues with not being read as male, and I chose those words precisely because I despise the word past, because that assumes that we're trying to be something that we're not, so I'm just going to go with that, being read as male. So, number one thing is I saw a video today of a guy who who has been having issues with being misgendered. Like, he'll be out with his partner and they say, "Oh, how are the salads, miss?" Or they're out shopping for clothes and they're in the men's section looking at pants or something, and they go, "How can I help you, miss?" So I was gonna do a response to them, but I decided not to because I don't want to make anybody angry. So basically, I have a little list here of things that I want to talk about. So first is things that help you be read as male. Clothes. Most trans men wear male clothing, so that's really not an issue. Number two I have is hair. So if you have a female haircut or a quote-unquote butch lesbian haircut, which is not the same as a men's haircut a lot of times, you might get misgendered. It's inconvenient, but it's an easy fix. I feel like if you cut your hair in a more manly fashion, and understand some folks can't because of work or whatever, then I feel like that's an easy fix. The other thing is, which is not as easy of a fix as the first two items, is how you move. If you still move like a girl, if you still walk like a girl, because men and women walk very differently, because as my fiance said, men have junk between their legs, so it makes it a little harder to walk like women, because women generally walk with their thighs together and men don't. That's how it works. So, if you can fix that, that helps. Because I feel like, I know personally for myself that I don't get misgendered a lot, especially when I am wearing a binder and stuff, because like I've said in previous videos, I can't wear a binder to work, so I get misgendered at work from people that I don't know. And there are some people that I do know that still do it, but that's beside the point. It's just one of those that, it's how you present yourself to folks, and a lot of times people get angry that people are misgendering them when it's not. It really has nothing to do with you. It may have if you're say you're in a department store and you're standing there looking at jeans, and someone comes up from behind you. Yes, you may have a short haircut, but they can't. And if you've had top surgery, or because the guy I'm talking about has already had top surgery. If you've had top surgery and you have short hair, they don't know that because they're coming from behind you. So if you still have hips, they're probably going to assume that you're a woman with short hair. It has nothing to do with you. A lot of it has to do with how people are raised. Most people are raised to have, to be polite to other people, and to be polite to other people means not misgendering them. So if they do misgender you, and it really has nothing to do with you, it has a lot to do with how they saw you when they approached you. And a lot of times, there are sometimes when I get misgendered, from behind, and then I turn around and they're they don't apologize right away, but you could see it on their face that they're let me, and then they just move on with the conversation. That's fine. I can see that you made a mistake. You know you made a mistake, and we're moving on in this conversation. Especially once I talk, because clearly my voice is a bit deeper than it was. So the other thing that I talked about is that, or I want to talk about, is that we don't walk around with name tags that say our name and our preferred pronouns. That's not how life is. So people are going to misgender you no matter what, pretty much. Unless you are read as male all the time, which especially most of the folks that I feel like that get misgendered are the folks that are earlier in their transition. So you're kind of like in this in between stage, and I'm in that same stage. So it's just like it's hard for people to not pick a gender or to just pick one, and then like sometimes they're wrong, and most people correct themselves, or you can see that they're trying to do it and then just move on. I feel like it's not their fault, because clearly we don't early in transition or mid transition, it's not as simple as we make it out to be. Yes, I know that I am a man, and most of the people in my life know that, and they use correct pronouns and stuff. But it's just one of those things where this is a stranger. Strangers don't know, because like I said, we don't walk around with name tags that say things that help them out. That's just not how life works. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is that just because someone is a part of the LGBT community doesn't mean that they know. Because going back to the guy the video that I watched today, one of the people that he interacted with was a gay man. Just because he's a gay man doesn't mean he knows anything about trans people. Because unless you are dating a trans person or your friend is trans, you don't know. Like, you don't, like, it's not, especially in today's society, people aren't brought up to be, like, I mean, when I was a kid, I knew I was different, but it wasn't like it was talked about ever, anywhere. It wasn't like in school you learned about people that were transgender. You don't learn about that stuff in school. There may be some schools that teach it now, but still, I feel like it's a work in progress. Like, it's one of those where just because and I feel like people in the trans community get offended when people that are under the LGBT umbrella that are not trans folks get misgender them or think something else. And it's just one of those where, like, just because they're a part of the community, that doesn't mean they really know. My example of this is a couple weeks ago I was in St. Louis and we went to Hamburger Mary's, and as most drag queens do, they poke fun at people in the crowd, because that's what they do, and that's a part of the show, and it makes it entertaining. So there were, like, I was in a group of, I don't know how many people, but we had like 5 or 6 tables, and then there was a table in the middle with some fellas that were with one of the queens, and then there was a table of 2 straight couples and a gay guy. So of course they made fun of the 2 straight couples and the gay guy sitting at the table together, because the straight folks were kind of like, what are we doing here? Okay, this is fun, hey. So it's just one of those, like, that's what happens at a drag show. So, and then of course one of the queens said something to me, and they go, oh, you're a lesbian. And I was like, no, I'm trans. And she was like stumbling over herself to correct herself. But, like, I don't expect her to know, because yes, I pass, well, I hate the word pass, but I'm read as male most of the time, but there are certain situations where I'm not, and clearly she thought I wasn't. So it was just one of those where, like, even people that are a part of the community doesn't mean, just because they're a part of the community doesn't mean that they're gonna not misgender you. So yeah, I've rambled long.